Without further ado, Kincaid Malmquist.
Hi, thank you. I'm Kincaid Malmquist from Mayo Clinic from Rochester, Minnesota. I'm an information security analyst. Mayo Clinic is a nonprofit organization committed to providing expert whole person care to everyone who needs healing. The Mayo Clinic mission is to inspire hope and contribute to health and well-being by providing the best care to every patient through integrated clinical practice, education, and research. In 2017, we have a total of 63,134 staff members. And as you can see the breakdown there, we have 4,700 physicians and scientists. There are 3 main campuses in Arizona, Florida, and Minnesota, and then we have various satellite systems through the Mayo Health Systems. Last year alone, we had 1.3 million patients that came through and 128,500 who were admitted. So why are we here? I am willing to guess that there are 3 groups of people who are here. The first group is interested in talking about phishing. The second group is just curious about what this talk is about. And the third group, you're probably in the wrong room and just realized it now. So according to Deloitte, the top 3 vulnerabilities to organizations was third-party access, increased mobile devices, and lack of awareness. And of these 3, what do they all have in common? The human component, and that's what we'll be discussing today. The Ponemon Institute says that the 10,000 employee company, the cost of a phishing attack is about 3.7 million. And of that, the largest percentage goes to productivity loss. So what Mayo Clinic has decided to do was to implement a technology plus human solution. We have the education plus visual recognition, which is the phishing simulation that we did starting back in 2015. And then also the communication and influence, which we have called the InfoSec Ambassador Program. So the Ambassador Program, it's to raise awareness, leading by example, distributing timely information to coworkers, and reminding everyone of their role in keeping Mayo Clinic safe. Information security ambassadors are champions of safe behaviors. Our ambassadors, we have a total of 289 active ambassadors to date, enterprise-wide. When our program started in 2015, we had 144. Since then, we have grown to 289. This is all strictly a voluntary position, comprised of 64% female and 36% male. The only request is a 1-year commitment, 2 to 3 hours per month, and interestingly enough, there's a low membership turnover rate, and I will discuss that in a little bit to explain possibly why that is. So for the Ambassador Program delivery, we have the newsletter, which is sent out on a monthly basis called The Scan. The Scan would talk about anything that is current in the news or any sort of InfoSec related topics that would be broken down into bite-sized pieces that's easily able to be digested from somebody who knows very little about security. There are also security alerts, which are sent out via email to these ambassadors whenever it warrants one. And these alerts, even though they are published on our homepage, not everyone visits that right away when the alerts happen. So these ambassadors are able to send the message out to their peers quickly and efficiently. And lastly, they lead by example. And of these 3 program delivery methods, ambassadors actually get to decide when, where, how, or if they choose to deliver the message, if at all. So a 3-year program feedback from a survey that was recently conducted. There are 125 ambassadors who've held the role since the start of the program in 2015. 35 were randomly selected and surveyed via RedCap. Some of the questions that we had asked was, why did you choose to become an ambassador? How do you measure your own success as an InfoSec ambassador? And what motivates you to continue fulfilling the InfoSec ambassador role? So from that, we found that 0% had hesitation to join the program. And this is at a hospital where a lot of the members are very patient focused. They don't have necessarily an InfoSec background or know much about it. 75% chose to share the information ASAP to their peers, and 67% perceived the program to have a positive impact to the organization. So some of our ambassadors had to say that just informing and educating people is a success for them. They've noted that the level of their peers' phishing detection has improved. There's an increased level of confidence, and they find the job rewarding. Another thing is they've enjoyed helping coworkers with technology and simply to learn about what Mayo is doing to keep hackers out and just to learn more about it. And they're always looking for opportunities to share. What we found is that the survey conclusion, we found that ambassadors found their participation to be satisfying. So what makes a job satisfying? There's Richard Hackman and Greg Oldham developed the job characteristic model. And from this model, they say that there are psychological states that have to be achieved plus the core job characteristics. Once everything within those areas have been hit, job satisfaction occurs. So how is this achieved? So of the 3 critical psychological states, they have to have identified the meaningfulness of the work performed. So my contributions to the larger picture is valuable. I have a personal responsibility. I'm accountable for the work that's being performed, and I'm knowledgeable of the results, so I understand my level of work performance. And of the job characteristics, there are 5 that fall under these 3 psychological states. Task variety, which is having a variety of different tasks to perform to complete that job. Task identity, knowing what your job entails, and also the task impact. So how does my job impact the bigger picture? There's personal responsibility, which is autonomy, that the person who is performing the job actually gets to decide what they're gonna do, how they're gonna do it, and then also knowledge of results. So the performance feedback, when we think of that, we think of an annual review or from our leadership saying good job or these are areas of improvement. But it goes beyond that. It can also be visual results that the person has identified, such as for the ambassador program, if they've seen that their peers come to them and ask them or view them as the content, knowing the content better than themselves, they kind of get that boost. So that's also performance feedback. So the satisfaction outcomes, this would result in high internal work motivation, satisfaction of growth, job satisfaction, high work effectiveness, and a low turnover, which is likely why in the 3 years of the program, we had very low turnover, and a lot of times those who did give up their ambassadorship role, they have actually left the organization or left the department. So the theory in action. So did behavior adaptation occur? Well, let's take a look. For the simulated phishing campaigns back when we started in 2015, there were 6 campaigns that were sent out, a total of 63,000 average emails sent. Of the 63,000, 32.9 presented the phish. In 2016, there were 8 campaigns, an increase of about 3,000 more average emails sent, and it's 44.4% reported the phish. In 2015, 5 campaigns, 66,882 average emails were sent, and 52.1% reported the phish. Looking at the 2017 comparative analysis average, as you can see, susceptibility for Mayo Clinic is much lower. And these are all other organizations that have used the same tool. But the only difference is that we have the ambassadorship program. So, and then looking at the reporting, it's substantially higher at 49.2%. Resiliency. So that's the ratio between users who report the phish versus those who feel susceptible to it. And again, using the same tool, we see the resiliency 4 times greater than all other industries. So behavior change did achieve. We produced the motivation, which produced the satisfaction and the conversion. So do we have any questions? Yes.
Hello. All right. Thank you for coming and sharing, first of all. Can you speak as to the sophistication levels of these phishing campaigns? Because there's obviously the big, not named, not using Mayo or your company name, not using their names, et cetera, or, being more sophisticated, and how you see the results across that.
Can you explain in terms of sophistication? Are you talking about the tool?
No, the actual emails you're sending. So you're sending a very wide net email, pay this accounts due, right?
Yeah.
You're not putting their name on there. You're not labeling it, et cetera. Or you're upping the sophistication where you're saying, Mr. George, you have this due, and like you actually are using like their manager's name, or you're using the company logo, that level of sophistication in the actual emails.
Right, so the emails are varied. Some of them are clicking on a link, some of them opening an attachment. So it's just varied. We don't really have we didn't want to just do, hey, verify your information, click on this link. And some of them were e-cards. It's the holidays, someone sent you an e-card. So we wanted to just be broad, because for phishing, when it does happen, it is broad. Any other? Yes.
What kind of training and support are you giving your ambassadors to talk to people and discuss things with them about phishing? How are you kind of looping them into the program that you're conducting so that they can go out and be those ambassadors?
Right, so the question is, how do we train our ambassadors? So our ambassadors, they do receive training, initially basic training as to what phishing is, what spam is, the tool that we'll be using, things to look out for. And as time goes on, we kind of send out through, we have like brown bag sessions sometimes, and also part of the scan. for our newsletter. So it really just depends on the type of information that we're wanting. And these ambassadors as well, they participate in the phishing simulation, so they do not know when the simulation or these emails will be sent out.
Hi, the question I had was, you had two things. One was the visuals. Can you elaborate on what you were doing on the visual aspect? And the second is that the material that is being sent to the ambassadors, is it purely focused on phishing awareness or is it general security awareness?
Okay, so the question is for the visual aspect and also the awareness. The visuals, it's a vendor tool. We send out the phishing simulation, and then once they fall victim to this phish, it automatically pops up on their screen to educate them right there and point out how they could have identified that this was a phish. If they thought it was a phish without clicking on the link, we do have a button through Outlook that they can click, and it automatically generates an email to the appropriate area to take a look. But given that this is a simulation, if they do click on that button, if they spotted that it was a phish, a pop-up would come on and it would say, great job. This was just a simulation. Had this been a true phishing attempt, this could have been what happened. And then the other question was,
The security awareness material that is given to the ambassadors, is it purely focused on email security or is it a more comprehensive general security?
yeah, we start off with phishing first, and then we branch out and then once in a we still also bring in topics relating to phishing, such as I think the most recent phishing that's been happening in the news, we would address that and kind of tell the ambassadors through the newsletter that, these are the things to look out for, pass the word. It just kind of keeps on reminding them to kind of be vigilant. And from that, we've learned that they do spread the word. We feel that that because they work with people within their work unit, they're the ones who know their peers the best. So they are the ones who decide, should this information be shared? And if it's shared, how should it be shared? Should I just print out this email and tack it up in the break room? Should I forward it on to everyone? Should we discuss it? That's really up to them if they want to share that information and how. Yes.
How did you measure the reports that email is phishing?
I didn't hear the last part.
How did you measure reports emails phishing?
How did we measure it?
How did you collect stats?
I still can't, I'm sorry.
Well, how did you collect stats? The email is phishing.
How did we collect the stats for phishing?
I think the tool itself gives the numbers. So when somebody clicks on a simulated
Yes.
page, the tool will say one person clicked, who reported it, 3 fell for it, right?
If nobody clicked, actually, they didn't follow any link. How did you measure that?
Oh, if they didn't click on a link? If they didn't click on a link, there is also a plugin in the Outlook that has a fish logo. They would click on that to report the fish. So that would be measured. And all of those reports would be individually addressed to determine if it's malicious or not.
So, ma'am, you had touched on the fact that if they were to fall for a phishing campaign, they were to click on a link, it would show them where they might be able to identify how it was a phishing attack. How do you all handle repeat offenders?
I can barely hear the question. How do we address repeat offenders?
Correct.
We don't want to immediately just address it with that person. We want to take a look at the area that they're working in. So let's say they're working in the Department of Neurology. Identify the level of exposure that they have to these emails. Do they have an ambassador? Do they? Then if that area seems to repeatedly fall victim to the phishing simulation, we would take a look at that area individually and see maybe they just need additional reinforcement. Maybe they need additional simulated campaigns sent out just strictly to their area. Maybe if they have an ambassador, communicate differently to that group. It's all about identifying the audience because everybody has a different level of knowledge. And we also have to keep in mind that, sometimes people don't realize, like, when you work in a hospital and you're treating patients, your first thought is the patient. You don't think of security. But then when you explain to them how security is part of the whole patient care package, then it kind of resonates.
Hi, my name is Sanchari, and I actually work in usable privacy and security as my PhD research interest. So thank you so much for your talk. One of the questions which I had was, as you mentioned, that different audiences are different. So did you have any security expertise scale on which you measured your ambassadors, or they answered particular questions likewise?
I guess I am not fully understanding the question. I apologize just because of the
No,
echo.
that's fine. It's harder to hear. Sorry. So the thing is, we did a similar set of studies, and it was about phishing attacks as well. And we created like security indicators. And we found like completely different, as you were mentioning about different audiences, results in between different people, right? So did you measure the security or computer expertise scores for the ambassadors whom you studied? And if you can, it would be really helpful if you can share your results and how statistically significant the improvement was before and after the experiment or the motivation or the simulation.
I'm sorry, I can't fully.
Did you measure their security and computer expertise score in any ways for the ambassadors?
For just the ambassadors alone?
Yes, because the impact might be different, as you mentioned, depending on the audience.
Yeah, so areas that don't have ambassadors, we did not test just areas with ambassadors versus areas that don't. The reason being is because, not every area has an ambassador, and some have multiple ambassadors. And also some areas just have more people. So just looking at numbers alone, versus Mayo versus other organizations that have used the same program, the fact is that our results are substantially higher. Even after 3 years, we're able to maintain. Goes to show that there has to be some level of success that has to be attributed to ambassadors. And ambassadors, they're not just strictly related. They don't necessarily just communicate this to their peers that they work with. It could also be with others that are not in their work unit as well.
I have a question.
All right, so I guess that is time.